Most people think memory champions are born different. Genetic freaks, human hard drives, wrong. The average memory champion has a completely normal brain, same neurons, same biology, same 3-pound lump of fat inside the skull. Yet they can memorize 500 digits, a shuffled deck of cards in under a minute, entire speeches after reading them once. Meanwhile, you forget why you walked into the kitchen. So what is the difference? It is not talent, it is training. A daily protocol that rewires how their brain encodes information. Psychologist Anders Ericsson studied elite performers for decades. Violinists, chess masters, athletes, memory champions. His conclusion was brutal. Experts are not born, they are trained. And memory athletes follow a specific set of daily drills that most people never hear about. 3 of them. Once you understand these 3 training methods, you will realize something uncomfortable. Your memory is not bad. You have just been training it wrong your entire life. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how memory champions train their brain every day. And once you see it, you will never study the same way again. Chapter 1, the memory gym. Most people treat memory like a storage device. Information goes in, information stays there. That is the assumption. Wrong. Your brain is not a hard drive. It is a muscle, and muscles only grow under resistance. Memory champions understand this. They train their memory every single day like athletes train their bodies, not casually, deliberately. One of the most famous memory champions in the world is Dominic O'Brien, 8-time world memory champion. He could memorize the order of 54 decks of cards. That is 2,808 cards. In sequence, when researchers asked how he did it, they expected something magical, some rare cognitive mutation. Instead, they discovered something boring. Daily drills every day, the same routine. Just like going to the gym. Here is what the training looks like. First drill, number recall. Take a random number generator. Generate a 50-digit number. Look at it for 2 minutes. Close the screen. Now try to recall it. Most people fail immediately. Memory champions expect that. Failure is the point, because struggle triggers encoding. Psychologist Robert Bjork calls this desirable difficulty. If learning feels easy, you are not learning. The brain strengthens memories when retrieval is difficult. So memory champions deliberately create resistance. Hard numbers, random words, abstract symbols. They push their brain until recall becomes uncomfortable, because discomfort equals growth. Second drill, speed cards. A shuffled deck of cards. Look at each card once. Move fast, no hesitation. Then recall the entire sequence. This exercise forces rapid encoding. Your brain learns to compress information quickly, like zip filing data. But here is the strange part. Memory champions are not trying to memorize the cards. They are training how to memorize. Think of it like sprint training. Sprinters do not train by running marathons. They train acceleration, explosiveness, technique. Memory athletes do the same thing. They train encoding speed, pattern recognition, mental imagery, over and over every day. Because memory is not a talent. It is a trained process. But here is the problem though. Training memory like a muscle helps. But raw strength alone is not enough. If you store information badly, you still forget it. Which brings us to the second advantage memory champions use. Chapter 2, the visual encoding hack. Most people memorize information as text. Words, lists, facts, your brain hates this. Text is abstract. Your brain evolved to remember images and locations. Think about it. You can walk through your childhood home in your mind. You know exactly where the couch was, where the kitchen was, where the stairs creaked. Spatial memory is incredibly powerful. Neuroscientists discovered this when studying the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory. In 1971, researcher John O'Keefe discovered something fascinating. Special neurons called place cells. These neurons activate when you think about physical locations, meaning your brain has an internal navigation system. Memory champions exploit this system, using something called the memory palace, also known as the method of loci. It is ancient. Greek orators used it thousands of years ago, because they had to memorize speeches without notes. Here is how it works. You take a familiar place, your house, your apartment, your childhood school, then you mentally walk through it, room by room. Each location becomes a storage slot for information. Example, you want to remember a grocery list. Milk, eggs, bread, coffee. Instead of repeating the words, you place absurd images around your house. In the doorway, a giant milk carton exploding. On the couch, a chicken laying eggs everywhere. In the kitchen sink, bread floating like a boat. On the coffee table, a volcano erupting coffee. Now, when you mentally walk through your house, the images appear automatically. Your brain retrieves them effortlessly. Why? Because spatial memory is insanely strong. Memory champions push this technique to the extreme. Instead of a house, they build entire mental cities, hundreds of locations, each storing dozens of items. The result, thousands of memories stored instantly. But here is the key detail most people miss. The images must be ridiculous, exaggerated, emotional, violent. Your brain remembers unusual things. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman explains this through something called salience. Your brain prioritizes information that stands out. Boring information gets deleted. Weird information survives. So memory champions exaggerate everything. Numbers become characters. Objects explode. Animals talk. Absurd scenes everywhere. It looks insane from the outside. But neurologically, it works perfectly. Because the brain encodes images far better than text. This technique alone can multiply memory capacity dramatically. But here is the thing. Encoding information well is not enough. Because your brain is still designed to forget. Which leads to the third daily training system memory champions use. Chapter 3, the anti-forgetting algorithm. Your brain deletes information constantly, on purpose. This is called the forgetting curve, discovered by psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus in 1885. His research showed something terrifying. Within 24 hours, you forget nearly 70% of what you learn. Within a week, almost everything is gone. Your brain leaks memory like a bucket with holes. Memory champions solve this using something simple. Timing, not more studying, better timing. This system is called spaced repetition. Here is how it works. You review information right before your brain forgets it. Not too early, not too late. Exactly at the forgetting threshold. Each review strengthens the neural pathway. Over time, the intervals grow longer. Day 1, day 3, day 7, day 30. Eventually, the memory becomes permanent. Modern memory athletes use software like Anki. An algorithm predicts when you're about to forget something and schedules the review automatically. Medical students use this system heavily because they must memorize thousands of facts, drug names, anatomy, pathology. Without spaced repetition, it is impossible. But here is the crazy part. Memory champions do not review for hours. They review for minutes because consistency beats intensity. 10 minutes a day, every day, that is enough. But it gets even more interesting because they combine spaced repetition with something else. Active recall instead of rereading information. They test themselves constantly. Question, answer, why? Because retrieval strengthens memory more than review. Researchers from Purdue University proved this in a famous experiment. Students who tested themselves retained 50% more information than students who reread the material. Retrieval is the workout. Review is just looking at the gym. Memory champions know this, so they test constantly. Flashcards, practice recall, mental rehearsal, every single day. But here is the thing though. Even these three systems are not the full story. Because there is one final habit memory champions follow that most people ignore completely. Emotion. Most people study in a bored state. Flat attention, low energy. The brain interprets this as unimportant. So it deletes the information. Memory champions do the opposite. They inject emotion into memory. Shock, humor, fear, absurdity. This activates the amygdala, the brain emotional center, which strengthens encoding dramatically. This is why you remember embarrassing moments from 10 years ago, but forget what you studied yesterday. Emotion tells the brain that this matters. Memory champions weaponize that mechanism. Ridiculous images, violent scenes, exploding objects, laughable stories, anything that triggers emotional reaction. Suddenly the brain pays attention. Suddenly the memory sticks. Now zoom out for a moment, because once you combine everything memory champions do daily, the system becomes obvious. 3 core drills every single day. Memory gym, visual encoding, spaced repetition, add emotion, add active recall. Now the brain changes. Neural pathways strengthen. Encoding becomes faster. Recall becomes automatic. And suddenly remembering things feels effortless. Not because your brain changed, but because your system changed. Most people try to memorize information. Memory champions train the machine that memorizes. Completely different approach. But here is the problem though. Even if you train memory like this, you can still waste enormous amounts of time learning the wrong information. Fast memory does not help if you are memorizing useless things. That is why the fastest learners focus on something else entirely, finding the 20% of knowledge that produces 80% of results. And once you understand how they do that, learning becomes almost unfair, which is exactly what I break down in the next video. Watch it now.